This morning we heard Richard Cox say that Tech Shop is a graphical user interface for tech. Well, I have something that's a graphical user interface for Tech Shop. So I see you and raise you, Richard. Why do we want a graphical user interface for tech? Well, attention spans of the young generation are very short, and the rest of us. People are used to clicking once and getting a result. The days when we sat for weeks reading the tech book to see what happened, it's very few people who can do that now. So what I want to do is to lower the bar for new users to get into tech. And we hope that a small percentage of those will try and dig deeper, and maybe we get more youngsters coming to this conference rather than seeing all the granddads every year. With all respect. I am speaking of myself too. Seriously, I mean, I love you all, but it's all the same guys, isn't it? Every year you get Frank and Richard and what have you. Let's see some new faces saying, apart from these guys who were dragged in yesterday, the kids who ran away after lunch. We want some more. I want to allow clients to be able to design a class file without seeing a single backslash. Tech, so this is plain tech. There's no document style, nothing. You just start writing and you say bye at the end. There's no structure at all. And in the middle you have bold font, italic font, what have you. It's very difficult to do anything with this, to automate this in any way. LaTeX has some structure. At least it encourages you to write in a specific way, in a certain way. So you've got your content, and you have what I call the style at the top. Yeah. So this gives a kind of, now we recognize a LaTeX file when we open it. You can write it differently, but generally people use the same kind of structure. I digress a little bit. This few years ago when I started thinking about doing this, I happened to be on the side. I discovered this thing called Povray, which I mentioned a few years ago, you might remember. Sorry to bore you again with that. But Povray, it's just an amazing thing. It's a 3D rendering program, and it's the only one that's not interactive. It's if you like, the equivalent of tech in the 3D graphics world. So if you like tech for typesetting, and the rest of the world think you're nuts, you love Povray. And everyone else, all the all the guys who use Maya and what have you think, I'm nuts. But the reason I'm showing this, as I was using it, I thought this is just like LaTeX. If you look at it at the top, in LaTeX you put in style files. Here we put ink files, we include them. Colors, textures, whatever, Kaveh, I wrote that myself. So that gives you the functionality. Then you change the parameters, you press the button, and you get an output. This just for fun. At the bottom, I got carried away, and I modeled my whole house in this. This is like hundreds of lines long, and that's what I got. It is an incredible. I mean, I'm not going to show you what other people have done, so you think I'm really clever, but this is nothing. Right, and you can look at for example, this is all code. This is all code, and all the wood, it's mathematically generated. If you think about wood, it's actually every year you get these cylinders, and you put some roughness, you put the colors, and you cut it in a slice. And anyway, it is amazing.
Are we going to see you walk through that?
Close, because I'm going to show you animation. But the reason I thought this, as I was thinking about doing this, some sort of graphical user interface, I thought, hang on, you can use this for other things, not just for LaTeX, because there are a lot of programs like that. Povray, there's If you think about HTML and CSS, it's the same thing. You have content in your HTML, then your CSS puts the style. So everything I'm saying, I think we can apply to these other programs too. So this, again, just like tech, here's a logo in 3D that I generated using PovRay. By changing one parameter, you can change the thickness of everything because you've parameterized it right. Yeah? So that's something you can't do with interactive 3D programs. And this, just very quickly, you said about me walking. I'm not walking, but this is animation. This was generated with PovRay and with a graphical user interface. I wrote the basic the functionality in a code, and then just by scroll bars, I said what color I want, etc. And I said animate, and it animated. So we can put animation with tech as well. So the challenges I set myself were, it's got to be multi-platform, right? I don't want to make something just for Mac, etc. It's got to be every platform. In principle, multi-software. So if it works with LaTeX, HTML, MetaPost, JavaScript, PovRay, etc. Now, we need an easily customizable interface. So it's no good having someone writing, say, even 100 different parameters saying that's what you change. Well, that's great, but you might want to use some, X hyphen penalty, which I'm not interested in. So the user should be able very easily to create their own controls. Okay? Otherwise, it's not going to work. And the good news is we can do that. We need to write a file. We need a machine-read writable file. How do we do that? Let's look at this. Is the basic LaTeX document. Document class, begin document, and then the content. Yeah. And this is how we modify that. We style it. Use package. So you have geometry and hyperref, and they take options. Okay. So the way you change, so you add a style file, and you put options to make modifications, to customize it for yourself. And these, what I call these controls, or these configurations, they either go inside, normally they go as an option, or they go after the begin document. For example, baseline, skip, etc., things that LaTeX would, plain tech would have. What I really want, I want to make things really simple. I want to have every document, I just want to have one package, use package, River Valley. That's it. Because then I want to put all my style in this file. Then I can use any document I want, just use that one line, and it'll apply that style to everything. Okay? So I want to separate these from each other. I don't want to have one file with lots of things at the top of it. Luckily, LaTeX allows me to do that, because I say use package. That River Valley style would be use package, geometry with whatever I need in there, hyperref, and then there's at begin document, which you can put before the begin document. When you run it, it holds those and puts them after begin document. Okay? So now what I've got to do is I can pack all my style, everything I want, into that one file called rivervalley.style. And the main file remains as it is. So what's the idea? The overall idea is a nice graphical user interface where I click, I can type in numbers, I can do various things graphically. That writes my style file, rivervalley.style. Okay? And I don't want to see that code. It should just do it. Then in the background, it'll run any file that I choose, reads that style, and shows me the output. And generally, I want the right-hand side to be invisible to the user. So we need, for this, LaTeX is a programming language. You can do anything you like in there. So to make these controls and to write things in a systematic way, I looked at different parameters, different values, different parameters we have to put in. And generally, you can categorize things. There are two ways of categorizing. There's a selection type. There's a way you can select something. It could be what I call choice. So orientation is landscape or portrait. Okay? Or there might be red, green, blue, etc. I call that a choice. Forget what comes out. This is how you want the graphical user interface to how you choose it. It could be a choice that it's a color. Maybe you click on that little red button and it goes into gives you the color wheel and you choose something. Okay? You'll see how these are, how I can use these now to create the controls. Number. It could be a number with a dimension. It could be number without dimension. It could be hyphen penalty 5,000. That's a number. It could be a toggle, on or off. PDF tech, on, off. So that's how you choose something. How you write it is a separate thing. Could be just an option. So, for example, in that first one, portrait is an option. It goes into square brackets before your before the package. Color would be, for example, in hyperref, link color equals red. Number, text width equals 10. Now I call that option with value. So those two are both option with value. So the output is the same way, they're both option with value, but they're different ways of selecting them. So basically you categorize these different things that you have to choose in a particular way and you have to write in another way. And then finally, at the bottom one is again, that's an option, but it's a toggle. So, we need a bit more information. So if I want this user interface, I want to create these buttons, I want to generate these automatically, I don't want to create them manually. You need a name, okay? We'll call it the name, the tech name, orientation. You need whatever, if it's a choice, you need the list of choices. You need a default value. So if you don't choose anything, what goes in there? If it's a number, what's the minimum maximum value? So if to say x hyphen penalty is minus 10,000 to 10,000, you have to give it that. Or if it's a width you choose, it's between 5 centimeters and 50 centimeters. Increment means if I pop up and it gives me a number of values, well, what do you want the values to be? So for example, if it's 0 to 10, do you want 1 increment or 0.5 increment? There's a default unit, there may not be a unit, and just to make things simpler, a group. So I put things in a group. It means that you don't have hundreds of things, so basically you divide them up. I'll show you that later. Now there are a lot of nice graphical user interfaces. This is Photoshop, but you can't change that. You've got to go to Adobe to say, if you want some sort of, if you want, say, contrast mixed with, I don't know, something else, tough luck, you can't have it. Well, we can, but they can't. So, to create that, somehow to create that user interface, you need a kind of style file for it, or a data file to tell us all those things that I just said. So, for example, what I want is for geometry.style, I want a geometry.data that tells me what those controls are. And if you think this is a good idea to have a graphical user interface, well, if we can have a standard, some sort of standard data file that tells us what a suggested list of controls, a minimum, maximum, etc. for geometry, then I can write a GUI, someone else can write a GUI as well. So I'd like to suggest that if you think it's a good idea, how do we generate that data? So people can have different GUIs, a bit like TechShop and TechWorks. Okay, you don't care. You know, someone uses TechShop, one person uses TechWorks. I don't know what they used, but they use what they're comfortable. Okay. I just thought I don't know enough about this. Maybe if you generate from a DTX file, maybe that information can be in there to say, right, for this style file, for, I don't know, HyperF, you got what, 100 different things you can change. If that can be written in a form that we can read, then I can generate a graphical user interface for it. I'd love your suggestions. So, the format, what's the best format for this, for having this information? I looked at JSON, XML, it could be XML, it could be even LaTeX itself, a LaTeX file, or TeX file, or YAML that was mentioned yesterday. I really want this to be as simple as possible. I don't want a complex, I prefer not to have an XML or JSON file because that puts people off. I want it to be human readable and even human writable. Okay? So YAML, for example, this is pretty straightforward. So this is a sort of data file we want to say, right, for TeX itself, the name is hyphen penalty. There's a long name, which is a description, if you like. There is what type, it's number, value is default value is that, increment that, minimum, maximum value, right? Actually, I ended up with a tab separated, or whatever you call it, TSV file. I tried not CVS, it's CSV, isn't it? Yeah, but CVS instead. I'm sorry. That's a different thing.
Could still be true, though.
Yeah. I get too many acronyms. Okay, CSV was. I've tried CSV, but I just can't get this. Having commas as a delimiter doesn't make sense to me. You got commas as a delimiter, then you got these quotation marks, then you got, of course, commas in between. Then you've got if you try regular expression, it's really very difficult. So tab worked well. So this is what I came up with. So this says it's a control group. A group. It's in. This is actually for this is for geometry, right? I just came up with a few things. So you got a control group. The group is page. I want to call it paper. That's the name of the variable. Description is paper size. It's a choice. Output form is option with value. Where does it go? Position. It goes into option. It goes into the use package. It doesn't go after begin document, right? So you can have option or document. Is there a unit? No. Minimum value? There's none of that. There's some choices, A2 paper, etc. So basically, I have a spreadsheet saying these are my these are the things I want to vary. And the development tool I used for this was a thing called Live Code. It's have a look at it. It's if you remember HyperCard, this is a superset of HyperCard, which to Apple's shame they killed off for no good reason. Well, for bad reasons, as we discussed, Horace. It's extremely intuitive. Now, suppose you've got a set of names, right, in a column, and you want to sort them according to the surname. This is how you do it. You say sort lines of my variable, numeric by word 2 of each. Okay? It's one line. In JavaScript, that's about 10 lines. Right? So even people like me can program. Okay? There's a Python version of what I've done, which Ricardo La Fuente did. But I'm going to show you this version. Okay. I think this is. I'm going to take a huge risk here and give you a live demo. Okay, it's called Batch Commander. The reason I would first call it tech something, then I realized, really, I've used this with POVRay, and you can use this with HTML, etc. Of course, there's things like Dreamweaver. The difference is, I think Dreamweaver gives you the controls that they want. Here, I can create whatever controls I want. So it can be my user interface. So let me just show you. So this is the, So this is the spreadsheet. This is where I define my interface. I'm just going to take another risk here and open up. I'll open up that. So this is BB Edit. Open geometry, say controls. Okay, I call it .tab. So what we've got is that's the group it goes in at the beginning, etc. I'm just going to copy that. Okay, extra line at the top. I create a new group called TUG 2014, and I'm going to call I'm going to invent Boris penalty. Okay, just for fun, and I'll leave it as it is. Default value is 100. Okay, I save that. So I go to my controls and I say reload package. Yeah, so you got TUG 2014 and you got Boris penalty. Yeah, default value 100. And I can move this around, 20 number. I define from minus 10,000. That's minus is jumping off, dropped off there. Now if I open my config file, this is in Tech Shop. You've got Boris penalty equals 4091. Yeah. So as I move this, look at the numbers. They move immediately. It's amazing how. Yeah.
But it's not affecting the typeset output.
It's not yet. Wait. Be patient.
Actually, you will not typeset this because you have undefined macro.
That's a good point.
Correct. You will have undefined macro. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll say run. I'll run it here first.
Yes.
And it says Boris penalty minus 4091. Unknown. Okay. So what I'll do, I can either remove that in my original file and reset. Easier if I just say here, I just remove that. Okay. So if I go back there, you see it's commented out. Yeah? And same here. If I go to my hyphenation, I can say X hyphen penalty. Actually, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. Yeah? So now what I can do, go to paragraph. Okay. So now let me show you just a little bit more. So if I open my config file, you've got use pack controls is sort of default. It's where I put the standard tech macros, right? It's not a, it's just a control. It's a blank file, but to allow me to put all these things in. Yeah? I want to add another style file in here. So I say manage styles, add style file, geometry. So we've got geometry here. And so I can say A4 paper, A3 paper. These are all put into that spreadsheet, so you can always change that. Now, you see geometry is written here now. Okay. I'm going to add another file, another style file. Progressive. We wrote one we needed a progress bar. I called it progress bar.sty, but I noticed one exists, so we call it progressive.sty. So it's more progressive. Okay, so again, you can see that progressive now is in here. So it's easy as that. The user ideally shouldn't be seeing all this. Now, progressive actually redefines a few things, so it should go after geometry. And this is my favorite bit. If it works, I just drag this down. I do like doing this. I can do this all day. There we go. Okay. Now,
Data should really be in the spec files about what
yes.
was before and after.
All of that can go. Yes, exactly. But this is where you guys and these propeller heads, brain heads like Frank should say, right, this is what you want. I can implement that, but I don't know enough to say, right, for example, I don't know, hyperref should always go at the end or whatever.
Almost always.
Almost always. Well, that's the bit which I need to know. So now these are all loaded. Now suppose you just say you want to use, I don't know, you say I just, for the moment I don't want this in, you can just get rid of that, or you can put it back in, okay? Now so far, now if I run this, okay, so run this again. Let me just, now the good thing is I can now bring in another file, okay, and it'll read the same style, okay. In fact, what I'm going to do now, we're in delayed mode, I'm going to put this on immediate mode, which means that as soon as I make any change here, right, H size, it'll run in the background, okay.
Change it faster than it can run.
There.
It's fast computer.
Okay.
No, you're waiting way too long between changes.
Sorry?
What I'm asking is, what happens when you change that thing faster than...
Oh, that's fine. What it does, it waits for it to typeset.
Okay.
No, sorry, it interrupts it. Yeah. No, it doesn't break. So it'll just pick up. I think it interrupts it and goes. I can't remember what it. The way this is running, it's Apple script. Now you can actually, obviously, inside that you can write this as a command line. But right now I'm just using Apple script. But it's written as a module, so you can go in and change that, as a command. For Povray, I use command line. Okay, so if I just switch off geometry, let's see, progressive at the end. I'm going to switch off controls. So I go to geometry. Yeah, we're on geometry, and say paper width. I'm going to say 200 there, 200 there. Make a square page. And then go to the margins. You learn text very quickly. You don't need a manual here, right? I didn't read the manual. So I say margins in. Now, of course, this margins is overridden by left, right, top, bottom. So I switch these off. Okay. And we get more margin here. Sorry, this one I didn't switch off. But if I switch one of these on, you can see that it overrides the other margins. Okay. So I'll switch that off, and now you've got, right, so the progress bar, I can go to the progress bar, and I can change the width of the progress bar, okay? And it's coming up with just the default. So we've put basically a class file writer now, the style file writer, they just need to give me all the functionality and parameterize all the different things. And I don't need them anymore. I don't have to go back. I can say, right, I want less height here, or a little bit more height. Let's say 8. I'll give it a curvature, 4. This is written in TIX or TIX-Z. Then we've got colors. Now we've got a full color at the top, or we've got color top mid, so it gives you a gradation. So if I go to color top, this opens the system. Live code runs on all systems. It'll open the system color of Linux or Windows or Mac. So I'm going to change, I'm going to pick a color here and maybe make it lighter for the top. And I'll put this one and pick this color again. And this one, we put the color again, and we'll make it darker. So, it's very quick to do this sort of customization. And then you've got the empty bar. We can do it the other way. We put it dark and lighter, something like that. So you can put any kind of, okay, we've got a ruler around. If you want, I can put a ruler around it. Yeah. We've got page numbers, put a page number, which is Roman or bold, italic. You can change the color of the page number, etc. Yeah. And the position can be at the right or top or left or wherever. Yeah, the page number's gone to the right now. But you can change the position of the whole bar as well. Top. If you want, right, whatever. So that's the idea. If you want, now it's much faster for us now to write a class file, because I say, look, I want this functionality and I want these changes. Give it to me. The class file writers can do other things, more clever things. I don't have to go back to them and say, look, you want a bit, 1 more millimeter this way. So I love your feedback. If you think it's a waste of time, it's great. If you think it's useful, then I want to know what kind of data, what is the best way of getting that data for, say, HyperF, which I never learned because it's just every time I pick it up, I chuck it out because there's too many things to learn. Here I can play around and learn that way. Thank you.
I feel that data could be useful in an entirely different way, which is as documentation. Which is, we've all had the experience of opening up documentation of a package and wondering what the heck the options are and what the values are, and that's all I want to know. Don't tell me all the other stuff that you think was so important. And and there could be links to the real documentation as another field in your thing and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think that some packages, maybe you could write that file by hand. Other packages probably deriving from the DTX, if there is a DTX, is really the only practical thing to do because the packages are going to change, right? And I wonder if your system over there, it's the L3 packages are the thing which are, the new world.
I'm waiting for this since we should talk about it.
Yeah, actually,
a lot of ideas around that one.
Fantastic.
Actually, it would be easy to go the other direction. You start with a tab-separated file, which is your prime, and it just generates user manual from the tab-separated file. Much easier than the other.
Very short comment. On all of your sliders there, it's very easy to get messed up and you need a reset button to go back to the default value.
Or to the last value.
Yes.
Say it again.
So when you see on H shift there, you can slide it up and down, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
All right. I get it out to 17 or whatever and say, I'm just doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Reset
like
to
an
default.
undo or okay.
You undo is one thing, that would be good.
Yeah.
The other is reset to default.
Would
Sure.
unchecking this just go to the default? I think
I
if
don't-
you
I
just
don't-
If I reload package, it goes to default again. Yeah. If I reload package here.
But then it changes
That's everything.
all of the sliders.
Okay.
I just want to change, this is not the slider I wanted to change. No, I'm 3/4 of the way
Yeah.
through. I just need to reset this one and start over.
It's quite easy to put a button
Yeah.
on each one saying reset. Yeah.
Dick, I don't want to give you suggestions, I just want a copy of the code.
What a selfish thing to say. I'm right now. Okay, I've actually released many years ago. I started this and I released it as GPL, but this one is a bit. It's not releasable now because it's in house and it's locked. But I'll get there.
Now, Batch Commander is this widget toolkit. Is that?
It's what I've called this this front
You had
end.
a previous talk about that.
Yeah, I did.
The previous iteration.
Many years ago. That's right. Yeah.
So how is this comment to interpret?
I'm sorry.
It is not releasable now. It is not releasable ever. What's the ending?
I don't know. But I want to really. It will be releasable at some point.
Not
Yeah.
very interesting for me.
I understand that. I do understand that.
Well, I mean, his GUI is one thing, but the data is another thing.
Okay.
The data is useful.
Data
It would be
is
a useful
what
thing.
I want to do with stuff like templates, which is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
structure. Really.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel that this. I'm not the world's best programmer, Almost, not quite. I've written this, but other people might do even better. What I'm saying is this can be a bit like Tech Shop. You know, people shouldn't be dependent on this. If we can have if we can agree on some sort of data interchange. Anyway.
I'm just wondering, if you, for example, change the height and then uncheck it,
Yeah.
and check it again, does it go back to its default value?
No, what it does, it simply doesn't write in there at all. So it goes to whatever the default is in the program.
Yeah, and that's when you uncheck it. If you check it again,
Yeah. So
and now check it,
no. You're right. Okay, it doesn't do that. Right now, what it doesn't do, it doesn't save
the default.
save your current thing. Basically, you do this, it writes your config file. And basically, you see that config file, you send this to whoever you want. If I send this to you, you'll get exactly that. What we need is to say, right, save this, save that, import that, export that. But that bit, I haven't got that.
Is the earlier code still available online?
Yeah, I mean, it's GPL, so I can't get rid of it. It's maybe I can go to Google and say, you know, hide me or something. Forget me, yeah. It's there, but I will. I'm feeling very guilty now, so I will get this and release it.
Where is it?
I can't remember, to be honest. It was several years ago, and I put it aside. And the reason I came back to it, everyone was saying, "Look, you know, we're spending a lot of time reading every time there's a class file. You know, can't you make things easier?" So now we're just, you know, the guy who wrote this progress bar, we don't have to go back anymore unless there's a new functionality.
There are two programs that build UI. One is in Linux, it comes before install. It's called Zenity. It's a program by which you build GUIs from command line.
Okay.
So that's also available as
Okay.
in Python. It's called Python.
Okay. Okay.
And the other one which I use very commonly is something called Zool. So we heard of XAML, XAML in Windows. I don't know whether it's equivalent thing is at Mac. So,
Yeah.
so you use Zool to build GUI. It's an XML format. So you basically write in Zool, then build it.
Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you.
One more question.
Only comment, for once, I'd like to see what you've done, Kaveh.
You want to condemn me?
No, for once, I like what you've done.
Oh. I don't know how to take that. But, I'll take it as a compliment.